Hey you guys, just getting into the new dungeons. So they're Plague Marsh and Black Gold Cavern, and here we're gonna do Plague Marsh first for the Divine Heart Shards, and I'll show the skills. I did go over them more thoroughly before in my Knighthood video, but here, so the really important one is Hell's Requiem, which is the big AOE Delphic, and then so. Basically, I have 1 and 3 are single target skills, and 2 and 4 are AoEs. So that's how it's gonna be. And so when I was first getting into this was my first try at all the dungeons. I've done them more since, so I have a better feel for them now. Really leading, since I have plenty of rage, I have big clothing for the most part, I can just go ahead and lead with Hell's Requiem. That also puts a debuff on all the targets, and so they'll take more damage. So I thought maybe I could get away with some of the smaller AoEs. Turns out that's not the case. I was just poking around to see what was going on, but there are 3 bosses and just 1 floor, so you're just sort of creeping up through the same area. You don't have to go through any teleports or anything like that. They keep it super simple, which is a good thing since there aren't a lot of Knighthood players. The requirements are very, very steep to get there, so being able to solo it is definitely a good thing. From everything I heard, I was pretty confident that I could get through these on my own without too many issues. Players who, you know, are making their way up and hit Knighthood very early on. So say you're like on a very young server and your BR isn't, you know, nearly as high as my own, and you hit Knighthood and you have the tattoos for it, it's probably less realistic to be able to solo this. But at least for me, you know, resistance wise, I'm good. Reduce res though, if you watch some of these hits, so here's, oh, it didn't show. So I'm subtracting some damage, but the increased damage, whenever I do see it, it's very, very low. So you need a whole lot of reduced res, like some really, really horrifying amount of reduced res to really get any bonus damage from your reduced res here. Now the mob's a little bit bigger, but not too much of an issue. Now for mages, from the skills were really pretty shafted, just from what I can tell. You know, previously we had a bonus where for every, the more targets that we have, the more rage we'll gain. And that makes sense for mages because we're, you know, AoE specialists and all of that. But that's really not very apparent out of the new Knighthood skills, and there's no, like, special talents that give a lot of passives and stuff. So here you have to be a little careful. I screwed this up in the next MP. We'll show that, but you have to be careful which boss you hit first. So it's not totally obvious to me, but at least for this dungeon, you have to hit this big tree guy first. It is good to see some of the opponents look a little bit different. You know, I was afraid that everything related to Knighthood would sort of just be recycled. You know. Even though the skill icons themselves, the art for that, do look different, so they weren't completely lazy, I was really disappointed that the animation for the skills is borrowed from some of the regular skills. Here I go into stealth mode, but turns out that it's actually really just faster if I stay in class mode a lot of the time. So when I was doing this, I was like, oh, this is really slow, and so next dungeon I try out Hercules, and that turns out to be a bad idea. So yeah, I sort of got the idea, and that was not that helpful. It was just easier to stay in class mode. But yeah, at least for Knighthood, a Rage Rune has been very nice. But yeah, so like, I think it's not, so Criminal Trial, the skill on 3, definitely copies the action from Thunder out of the Mage skills, and pretty much all the other animation is borrowed as well. So not super creative on the game's part there. And here again, this boss is familiar. Be very surprised if it weren't wind-based. But yeah, so for the mages, alternating between Hell's Requiem and Criminal Trial is really, really important, because both of them increase the damage taken by 30% on whichever targets they take. So in things like Dragon Invasion, there's, you can combo the two of them very nicely, as long as you have the rage for it. So sort of rage management for the mages is very, very critical and very difficult to pull off. Even for PvP, you really want a lot of rage, but it's hard to bring a rage rune. So I'm not totally sure what to do there, but anyway. At least here, nothing too crazy or difficult. I think this is the easier of the two by a little bit. And then for the final draw, it's you either pick up 8 or 12 from everything that I heard. So in total, you'll either get 18 shards or 22 shards from the dungeon, as long as you pick up from all of them. So grab another attempt. I'm going to save up my crusades for the most part, and hopefully do it once I get some fancier XP scrolls, or once Robin hits Knighthood. I think we can blow through the MPs really, really quickly if we have 2 people. So here it's actually not that slow, and I could go ahead and push for more XP if I just go ahead and do lots of these dungeons, but I don't know. I don't really see the point in rushing it, so I think I'll just wait for Robin. And so here I had sort of messed up this dungeon at first, but anyway, the first time I screwed up, but I'll show it again, or at least show the last couple of bosses again, just because I was like did not figure out what was going on very well. And here again, leading with that little AoE. I don't know why I did that. But nothing too difficult. I just think that this will be, if you have lower BR than myself, especially if your attack stat is not quite up to snuff, that this is going to be really slow going. I think it's still feasible for a much lower BR tune to solo this, but it's not too bad. And so yeah, the setup is very, very basic. I don't think they try to make it too complicated. It's 2 mobs and 3 bosses. The only thing that you really need to be careful about is making sure that you do the 2 minor bosses first, and don't accidentally do the final boss, because that can sort of screw you up. So here it's the first boss is always pretty obvious. So clearly, like, this is one of the bosses that should happen before the final boss, but then after that it gets a little bit more wishy-washy. I thought it was sort of up in the air with that with Plague Marsh as well, but here I think it's even less obvious. So again, just taking advantage of the rage rune. That's really your best friend in here. Even for the other classes, I think they can get a little short on rage, but I think the mages have the worst rage gain out of the 2. And that's sort of the case for regular skills, but it's a lot less noticeable with the regular skills. So pretty smooth. And I thought they were about similar difficulty until I hit this boss. And so I was a little bit timid. I knew from the other one that I wasn't sure which boss to hit, but I went with that boss thinking that this must be like the next boss. I didn't realize that there was another path. And anyway, so this is actually the final boss for this dungeon. And there's 2 of them. And I don't notice any immunities. I don't see anything too special about the fact that there are 2 bosses. But one of them, the one in the front, does end up getting a deflect, and so I screwed up here and get hit by the deflect a little too hard. And I also brought Hercules because I just wanted to move faster. So I thought, oh, I'll just bring Herc and it'll be fine. I'll just increase my attack stat. And actually that did not work out very well here. So I thought I had it, but no cigar. So just adjust a little bit, put on, I think I put the Oracle on, yeah. And then use Hecate. And you don't really need the scatter for that deflect. It's not that bad, but I guess I brought it anyway. Ever since I haven't used that scatter since these first couple of times with this dungeon. But yeah, so I thought there might be something special with immunities. Maybe you have to kill them at the same time. Maybe I should test killing one of them really quickly first and then see what happens. Because I feel like every single time I do this, I just end up killing them, like, within one turn of each other. So I would have no idea whether or not that's the case. Well, here I should... Oh, no. Still gonna be, like, within a turn of each other. Yeah, but that's the final boss. I'm lucky that I think I end up drawing 12 from this one and not 8. So yeah, I draw 12, so that's okay. But that lightning boss at the bottom, I end up missing, which I was really sad about. So yeah, so I only get 17 from that one, the 5 from the smaller boss. So you just need to be careful and make sure you do it in the right order. It's one of those things where once you know it the first time, it's fine. But yeah, so I do one more attempt and. So I'll just show that lightning boss since so I didn't realize what was going on beforehand. So here I sort of skip along. So there's the dark boss from before. So I realized that there's a path, and I don't know, it just, that little Y shape or the V shape did not, like, occur to me the first time I did this. It might be totally obvious to every other person who does that, but for me, I ended up screwing it up the first time. So, so this means we can show all the bosses. Rage management in DI actually ended up being really pretty difficult at first. I couldn't figure out like what was the best way to go, but basically just filling up on rage at the start of every battle. Every battle, like once you get towards like the last 13 or 14. Well, up to boss 13 or 14 actually. That seems to work out better. Into Sylph mode. Sylph mode just not nearly as impressive when you have Knighthood skills, because Sylph mode, you know, most of the skills are between 150 and 300 or 400, maybe 400% damage at most. Really all of the Knighthood skills are, well, all the big Knighthood skills are much stronger. So it gets a little harder to justify going into Sylph mode. So that guy actually took a little bit longer than the others, I think, just DPS wise. So I definitely need to get those shards. And I don't know why, well, I don't know if a heal rune is even that necessary. Once you do all of these a couple of times, you know, you get used to it and you can blow through them pretty quickly, but first time around I was much more cautious. Guys are all headless. Well, they're not headless horsemen. They're headless and horseless knights, I suppose. But yeah, so nothing too exciting actually with the Knighthood MPs. I'm glad that they're relatively short, that it's not anything ridiculous, and that I don't need other players to do them, since that would be a really, really big pain in the butt. But I hope you guys enjoyed and are at least glad to be able to see these MPs in advance. Looks like I got 33 million. I thought it was... So maybe after bonuses, it's 33 million XP. That's what I saw in the chat. Yeah, 33 million. But on the rewards page, it said 23 million. But anyway, so that's it. I mean, I haven't been using Crusade since, so slowly building up that gear and all that stuff, and eventually I'll be there. So I don't think it's really a huge rush at the moment. I mean, I'm sure that the new gear will be a nice little BR boost, but I don't really feel like it's a huge rush. I think it's like 30 runs or something to be able to make a piece of gear. So it's gonna be a while. Even if I use all my crusades, I probably get like one piece of gear really quickly, and then I'll just be slow going again. So thanks for watching, you guys. Take care and have a very good day.